Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion. Today we will be doing the last daf in Parak Arel, daf Pei Gimel and Yevamos. We're talking about one topic that is dear to many people. I don't know, androgynous and androgen. What is he like? The Mishnah seems to imply he's a zachar. According to everybody, there's three statements in our Mishnah that all seem to indicate the same thing. The Mishnah on Pei Aleph and Aleph says. First halacha, it says, Rehuda says, Riosi Rishimon say, androgynous Kohen Shnisa Bas Yisrael Machila B'Truma. If he's androgynous, now, if you look up the word androgen on Google, you'll see that it doesn't necessarily mean a hermaphrodite. There's a difference between androgen and hermaphrodite. Androgen means he's a male or female, but they have also the other characteristics. A male, let's say, has male genitals, he would have female characteristics. He'd have very passive emotions. It wouldn't be so emotionally involved. He would be very emotionally involved, very emotional as opposed to instrumental. Not as aggressive, not as assertive. I don't know if it means also physical characteristics, like I have breasts or something like that, but he's really a male. He only has male genitals. That's the androgen. Or a female would be a female androgen. Female genitals is a very assertive and aggressive a manner, maybe a deep voice. That would be something that would be considered androgen. Androgen, I don't know how to pronounce it, but hermaphrodite is someone who has both male and female genitals. The Mishnah uses the word androgynous. Does it always mean a hermaphrodite in the Mishnah? Hard to say. It's not very clear. The Gemara seems to imply that we're talking about someone who has male and female characteristics, but the problem is that the word androgynous comes from the word androgen, which is defined by Google as not necessarily someone who has both aspects. So, in the present, we're going to go with the definition that I think ArtScroll used to translate as hermaphrodite. They have not translated. Stopped translating as hermaphrodite. They translated as, what do they translate it as? Androgen. Yeah, androgen. Look up on Google. It's not the same thing as hermaphrodite, but whatever it is. So the Rabbi Yossi and Shimon say androgynous Kohen. He has both male and female simonim. He marries a Bas Yisrael. He's considered a Vadai Kohen. Only a male has Kedushas Kahuna. He can feed his wife Truma. He's a Vadai Zachar. Then the second halacha, androgynous no say of Olonisa. He get married, but he can't be married. He can't be married because he might be a man. He is a man. He is a man. Lonisa, even B'diavad, he's not man. He's not married because a man can't marry a man. There's no such thing as nisuin. The Gemara said before, there's no kedushin in a man, no nisuin. By a woman, there is possibly nisuin. A woman to a woman, but a man to a man is definitely no nisuin. Those are omer. A third halacha, and Drag is kind of skila kazachar, that he's a man is together with hermaphrodite. He's chayav skila because it's considered mishkav zachar. And the Gemara says Lezer is cholik on the Tanakama over here. He's only chayav if it's through the anus. If it's through the vagina, then he's not chayav from mishkav zachar. According to Tanakama, for both he'd be chayav. So really, what is the machlokas in the Tanakama and Rebbe Lezer? They go back to the Makorus and the pasuk on Pei Gimel and Beis. What's the machlokas? But the Gemara says very clearly that Rebbe Lezer holds that when it comes to animals by karbonos, and androgynous and tumtum are really a suffix. They're not really defined as a zachar and a keva. When the Torah says zachar and a keva, when the Torah talks about animals, karbonos are animals, and it says zachar and a keva and ola. And it says the shlamim is usually in the keva, ola is usually zachar, things like that. Chatas. The Gemara says kisva, kesev, right, sheep or a female sheep. They talk about Torah specifies male or female animals. Let's see, you have animals which have both characteristics. So this is the cloud that Rebbe says on the bottom, Pei Gimel base. If the Torah was out of its way, like by animals, it says zachar and a keva, you can't say androgynous is for sure a zachar and a keva. So therefore, it's not included in the karbonos, and there would be no kedusha. There would be less kedusha or no kedusha by the animal, and it would be a nevela on Pei Dalet Amud Aleph. He seems to say at the top that there's no kedusha saguf, so therefore there's no create a tmura because we can't say animals. It says zachar and a keva. I can't classify it as a vadei zachar. On the other hand, it says that he's considered a zachar in terms of the fact that mishkav zachar he's chayav skilon, so he's vadei zachar for that. How do you explain Rabbi Lezer's shita over here? On the one hand, mishkav zachar, he's included, so he's vadei a man. If he's a suffix man, suffix woman, you can't kill al svekos. Suffix, you're not going to kill on a suffix. Suffix navashos lahakil. You can't kill someone with a suffix del raisa. But on the other hand, he says, so he seems like he's a vadai zachar. On the other hand, from these brises, you see by animals that he's not considered a zachar nekeva, even though by oath, by a bird, we would consider the animal to be a vadai zachar. So I like to say like this, that Relezer holds, and explain Relezer's shita, he holds that there's a chazaka over here. When you're not sure, an androgynous, we saw an opinion on the top Pegel Moment Aleph, maybe Rabbi Yossi holds, not like the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say. Rabbi Yossi has a dissenting opinion in the Brisa, where he says, Birya b'fnei atzma, v'lohachri chacham, it's a safek hashakol, really, we're not sure, it's a safek hashakol, mechsa al mechsa, he might be a male, might be a female, v'lohachri chacham, they couldn't figure out what he is. Rabbi says, no, we can't figure out what he is, for sure, but we could assign a chazaka. We're going to introduce the idea of chazaka. This figures prominently in a lot of svaros and shas. Chazaka means that we treat it as a vadai, but not mitoras vadai, mitoras safek. It's a vadai mitoras safek, meaning we're not sure, but we have right to assume, unless you can prove me wrong, I'm going to assume one way. And therefore, I like to offer the explanation, is that originally, the first person created in the world was a Zachar, was Adam HaRishon. He was a Zachar, he was a man. Woman was drawn from his flesh. So, if you're not sure if someone's a man or a woman, Relation says, go back to the Chazaka. Who is the Chazaka? The Chazaka was Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon was the Chazaka. He was the first one. After him, created from him, is an Nekeva. So therefore, you go to the Chazaka. We're not sure what he is. Maybe he has male and female parts, or he just has a male parts, and he has female characteristics and androgen. Either way, we treat him like a Zachar, but Torah is Chazaka, not but Torah is Vadai. Not that we've defined him as a Torah, as for sure a male. He's a suffix, we're not sure, but we can assume that he's a Chazaka, he's a man based on the Chazaka. And we know from the Gemara and Kedushin, the Gemara and the Kedushin, and Daf Ayin Tet, the Gemara says, Soklin, Malkin, you give Malchus, you give Kares, you give Skila, ala Chazakos, even though it's an assumption, as long as it's a strong assumption, you'll be able to give Skila. So that's why he says that you can give him Skila, it's a Mishkav Zachar, he's an hermaphrodite, he's an androgen, he is considered a Zachar, but Torah is Chazaka, and that's enough to kill him, because it's not Saving the Pashtah, it's a Chazaka, it's a Vadai B'Torah Safek. We're going to have to explain this more as we go through more Masechtas and Shas, but that's really a Shita, and therefore, this makes sense by animals and birds, where the Torah says Zachar and Nekeva. It goes out of its way to say the animal is Zachar or should be a Nekeva. So once the Torah says it has to be a Zachar and Nekeva, it tells you what it has to be. You can't say, oh, we'll rely on the Chazaka. Because the Torah says Vada, it has to be a Zachar. If it's not a Vada, it's only a Chazaka. That is excluded. It's not called a Zachar, it's not called a Nekeva. But the Torah is ambiguous, it doesn't say Zachar and Nekeva like by birds. So therefore we rely on the Chazaka. When there's ambiguity, so then we can go on the Chazaka. If the Torah specifies it has to be Torah's Vada, you can't say Chazaka, because Chazaka is really limited in Safek. So to explain that, it's a complicated svara to explain, but I say that's exactly what Rezer Shita is, that it's a chazaka, not a suffix, like Rabbi Yossi's opinion, in the Brisa, we saw in Pei Gilman Aleph on the top. It has a din of a chazaka, that it's, we are treated as a zakar, but only when we're ambiguous, the Torah is ambiguous about it, the Torah is not ambiguous about it, it's not, there's no smakum suffix, it has to be vadai, so then he's not considered to be a zakar. That would be the explanation of Shittas Rebbe Lezer. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you tomorrow.